Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Central. Greetings to one and all, greetings to one and all. We're here on another beautiful day in paradise, getting ready to continue the story of Malcolm X as told by Malcolm X. Right, straight from his autobiography. And if you haven't read his book yet, well, you're in for a treat that just can't be beat. So just hold on to your seat. While you're holding on to that seat, please do not forget to go ahead and give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on the tube, give us a thumbs up. And then make sure to spread the word. Let it be heard far and wide that we're here talking about some black pride. That's right. And we don't mean, no, it don't mean what you think it meant. That ain't what we're talking about. We're talking about some real black pride from back in the day. All right. Just so we get it straight. We know a lot of words have been redefined recently to mean things other than what they used to mean. But that's not where we're coming from. Because I'm definitely an OG, and so we're going old style, old school, all right? Old school, that's the rule. All right, meanwhile, let's go ahead and get this party started. Boom, shakalaka. We'll get this up and running right here. So we're going to go ahead and do our proverb first and foremost. Proverb for the day is, let's see what we come up with here in our little book of Proverbs. We got so many we haven't read. All right, here goes one here. This is an interesting one. It should pique your interest. This one goes, meat does not eat meat. Meat does not eat meat. Yeah, and that proverb is from, I believe that is from Nigeria. Let me just check and make sure. Yep, that is from Nigeria. Meat does not eat meat. Okay, meat does not eat meat, and a cheat can't cheat a cheat, and game recognize game. Yeah, y'all know that one too. No need to interpret any of those. I'm sure you will be able to figure them out on your own just as well. So let me see here if I can just get this piece to show up here, and we will get this show on the road. Boom. There we go. Right up in there. And here we come. All right. Now, so we are, like I said, we're in the midst of Malcolm X month. That's what month it is right now. This is Malcolm X month. Let me just check something real quick right here. Make sure this is on point. Okay. Yeah, this is on point right here. All right, we're good. Just want to make sure I did everything I was supposed to do. Might just want to do that one more time. Just to go ahead and make sure. All right, so we're good. All right, now, so let's see. Where did we leave off at? Where did we leave off at yesterday when we were reading from the book, the good book of Malcolm? Oh, yeah, here we go here. It's talking about these Hill Negroes. Yeah. Right, any black family that had been around Boston long enough to own the house, the home they lived in, was considered among the Hill elite. Right, absolutely. The Hill elite. Let's make sure we go over here. There we go. Now, get that on point. Okay. Let's see. In those days on the Hill, any who could claim professional status, in other words, if you were a teacher, a preacher, practical nurse, also considered themselves superior. Foreign diplomats could have modeled their conduct on the way the Negro postmen, Pullman porters, and dining car waiters of Roxbury acted, striding around as if they were wearing top hats and cutaways. I'd guess that 8 out of 10 of the Hill Negroes of Roxbury, despite the impressive sounding job titles they affected, actually worked as menials and servants. He's in banking, or he's in securities. Now, what exactly did they mean by that? He's in banking. They meant he pushed a broom or a mop down at the bank. That's what they meant. And I'm sorry, but I didn't have to read that out the book to know that's what they meant. Okay, that's exactly what he was saying. So let me read it as it says it in the book. It sounded as though they were discussing a Rockefeller or a Mellon, and not some gray-headed, dignity-posturing bank janitor or bond house messenger. I'm with an old family. Yes, one of the oldest families here in Boston. Was the euphemism used to dignify the professions of white folks, cooks, and maids who talked so affectedly among their own kind in Roxbury that you couldn't even understand them. I don't know how many 40 and 50-year-old errand boys went down the hill dressed like ambassadors in black suits, white collars, to downtown jobs in government, with a briefcase. Got their sandwich, got to put the sandwich in something, right? Got to take your lunch. In finance or in law. It has never ceased to amaze me how so many Negroes then and now could stand the indignity of that kind of self-delusion. Soon I ranged out of Roxbury and began to explore Boston proper. Historic buildings everywhere I turned, and plaques, markers, and statues for famous events and men. One statue in the Boston Commons astonished me. A Negro named Crispus Attucks, who had been the first man to fall in the Boston Massacre. I'd never known anything like that. Now somebody had to tell him that he was black, because when you see that statue, that it's really it's a column. It's a column with names on it. It don't say nigger. It don't say Crispus Attucks nigger or Negro or black or colored or none of those other euphemisms they use to describe us. That wasn't on there. So you're not going to know by that. Somebody would have had to told him that that particular one was a black man. I roamed around everywhere. In one direction, I walked as far as Boston University. Another day, I took my first subway ride. When most of the people got off, I followed. It was Cambridge, and I circled all around in the Harvard University campus. Somewhere I'd already heard of Harvard, though I didn't know much about it. Nobody that day could have told me I would give an address before the Harvard Law School Forum some 20 years later. I also did a lot of exploring downtown. Why a city would have two big railroad stations, North Station and South Station, I couldn't understand. At both of the stations, I stood around and watched people arrive and leave. And I did the same thing at the bus station where Ella had met me. My wanderings even led me down along the piers and docks where I read plaques telling about the old sailing ships that used to put into port there. In a letter to Wilfred, Hilda, Filbert, and Reginald back in Lansing, I told them about all this and about the winding, narrowed, cobblestoned streets and the houses that jammed up against each other. Downtown Boston, I wrote them, had the biggest stores I'd ever seen, and white people's restaurants and hotels. I made up my mind that I was going to see every movie that came to the fine, air-conditioned theaters. On Massachusetts Avenue, next door to one of them, the Lowe's State Theater, was the huge, exciting Roseland State Ballroom. Big posters out in front advertised the nationally famous bands, white and Negro, that had played there. Coming next week, when I went by that first time, was Glenn Miller. I remember thinking how nearly the whole evening's music at Mason High School dances had been Glenn Miller's records. What wouldn't that crowd have given, I wondered, to be standing where Glenn Miller's band was actually going to play? I didn't know how familiar with Roseland I was going to become. Ella began to grow concerned because even when I had finally had enough sightseeing, I didn't stick around very much on the hill. She kept dropping hints that I ought to mingle with the nice young people my age who were to be seen in the Townsend drugstore 2 blocks from her house and a couple of other places. But even before I came to Boston, I'd always felt and acted toward anyone my age as if they were in the kid class. Like my younger brother Reginald, they had always looked up to me as if I were considerably older. On weekends back in Lansing, I'd hung around in the Negro part of town with Wilfred's and Filbert's set. Though all of them were several years older than me, I was bigger and I actually looked older than most of them. I didn't want to disappoint or upset Ella, but despite her advice, I began going down into the town ghetto section, that world of grocery stores, walk-up flats, cheap restaurants, pool rooms, bars, storefront churches, and pawn shops seemed to hold a natural lure for me. Not only was this part of Roxbury much more exciting, but I felt more relaxed among Negroes who were being their natural selves and not putting on airs. Even though I did live on the hill, my instincts were never, and still aren't, to feel myself any better than any other Negro. I spent my first month in town with my mouth hanging open. The sharp-dressed young cats who hung on the corners and in the pool rooms, bars, and restaurants, and who obviously didn't work anywhere, completely entranced me. I couldn't get over marveling at how their hair was straight and shiny like white men's hair. Ella told me this was called a conch. I had never tasted a sip of liquor, never even smoked a cigarette. And here I saw little black children, 10 and 12 years old, shooting craps, playing cards, fighting, getting grown-ups to put a penny or a nickel on their number for them, things like that. And these children threw around swear words I'd never heard before, even, and slang expressions that were just as new to me, such as stud and cat and chick and cool and hip. Every night as I lay in bed, I turned these new words over in my mind. It was shocking to me that in town, especially after dark, you'd occasionally see a white girl and a Negro man strolling arm in arm along the sidewalk, and mixed couples drinking in the neon-lighted bars, not slipping off to some dark corner as in Lansing. I wrote Wilfred and Filbert about that too. I wanted to find a job myself to surprise Ella. One afternoon, something told me to go inside a pool room whose window I was looking through. I had looked through that window many times. I wasn't yearning to play pool. In fact, I'd never held a cue stick, but I was drawn by the sight of the cool-looking cats standing around inside, bending over the big green felt top tables, making bets and shooting the bright colored balls into the holes. As I stared through the window this particular afternoon, something made me decide to venture inside and talk to a dark, stubby, conch-headed fellow who racked up balls for the pool players, whom I'd heard called Shorty. One day, he had come outside and seen me standing there and said, "Hi, Red." So that made me figure he was friendly. As inconspicuously as I could, I slipped inside the door and around the side of the pool room, avoiding people, and on to the back, where Shorty was filling an aluminum can with the powder that pool players dust on their hands. He looked up at me. Later on, Shorty would enjoy teasing me about how, with that first glance, he knew my whole story. Man, that cat still smelled country, he'd say, laughing. Cat's legs were so long and his pants so short, his knees showed and his head looked like a briar patch. His head looked like a briar patch. Dang, that was a heavy description. All right, so this is Malcolm's introduction to Boston, and we'll return to pick that up again on the morrow. Like I told you before, I know we're not going to be able to read that whole book. That's obvious. But the parts that I want to read most, that I'm most interested in reading, are is about the early part of Malcolm's life that rarely gets a once over. Just barely gets a once over. People just kind of skim over that part and move on to what they feel is more interesting when he's with the Nation of Islam. And decidedly, we're going to be focused a lot more on these other aspects. And I'll be posting up some new images. I haven't been able to get them all up there, but I got some I'll be posting up here so you can get a better idea of what the people that he was seeing looked like, how they dressed, how they walked, how they talked, all of that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. We'll be black tonight, continuing on with our story of the Black Panther Party in the form of a graphic novel like you see right here. So tune in tonight and you'll get a good dose of that as well. That's also another story that rarely gets told, that doesn't really get told the way that it should get told. And that's our goal, is to tell these stories the way that they should be told or could be told if it weren't for all the rules, restrictions, and stipulations that they put on teachers in schools. We could pass on our stories the way they should get passed on. Meanwhile, y'all know what you need to do. Go ahead, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. And, of course, we got a donation button. I got it up there for a week on my profile picture. You see my profile picture and you see some coins down there? Click that profile picture. It'll take you straight to a donation button where you can become a sustaining member of the Black Facts family. Okay? Support our Tubular Black Facts channel, where we're providing free information free over the internet every day, twice a day, 365. We're at 535 live streams so far over the period, just a little bit less than 1 year. So we've nearly been able to do 2 every day. Some days we had to take a break in there for a while, so we didn't do every single day, but we're doing just about every day. So give us your support and show up tonight at 9 o'clock. This is Doc Ock at Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing off. Peace out, y'all. And I see you over there, Lotus Flower. Gonna go ahead and transition right on to our extra.